Have you ever felt like you were walking alone, like no one around you truly understood what was stirring deep within your spirit? Have you sensed that your path was meant to be different, even if it meant being misunderstood, rejected, or isolated? Then you, beloved, may be one of the chosen. And if that resonates, I invite you now, before we go deeper, take a bold step of faith. Subscribe to Bible Peak and comment below with a declaration of power. I receive strength from God. I will no longer shrink back. I walk in divine authority. Let your words be a banner of faith and identity. You are not just hearing this by chance. This moment was divinely set for you, because what you're about to uncover will change the way you see your solitude, your silence, and even your suffering. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." You see, while the crowd seeks validation, the chosen are trained in the shadows. While the world shouts louder and louder for attention, the chosen grow in the silence. God has always raised his most powerful servants in solitude. Moses was hidden for years in the wilderness. Elijah heard God not in the wind, fire, or earthquake, but in a still small voice. Even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray and be strengthened, because solitude is not a curse. It is a refining fire. It is the place where warriors are forged, where strength is born, where divine identity is revealed. If you felt the sting of separation, the ache of being misunderstood, the heaviness of walking alone, this is your confirmation. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand apart. Because in that separation, in that stillness, something extraordinary begins to awaken. You begin to see what others are blind to. You begin to hear what others drown out. You begin to discern truth in a world full of illusions. And the powers that rise within you, yes, the spiritual gifts that begin to set you apart from the 80% who never wake up to their true calling. Let's take a step further into this sacred unfolding. The ironclad mind, the first gift of the Shasanon of the first powers that manifest in solitude, is the birth of an unshakable mind. It's not that you no longer feel pain, it's that pain no longer controls you. It's not that you don't face pressure, it's that you're no longer broken by it. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You'll keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." The world teaches us to react, to explode, to break under stress. But the chosen learn to master their emotions. You've been through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and disappointment, and still, here you are, standing. That is no small thing. That is the evidence of an iron mind. A mind that refuses to be owned by circumstance. A mind that leans not on its own understanding, but finds rest in the promises of God. People look at you and call you distant, cold, detached. But what they don't understand is that your silence isn't emptiness, it's discipline. It's power under control. It's a battlefield where you've fought wars no one saw, and now your stillness is terrifying to those who once tried to manipulate your emotions, because when the chosen no longer react the way the world expects them to, they become untouchable. Your calm confuses your enemies. Your peace unsettles the fearful. And your self-control makes you immune to manipulation. You have learned the most powerful secret. Mastery of the mind is mastery of life. The gift of spiritual sight, seeing beyond the masks in solitude, your eyes begin to see what flesh cannot perceive. You start to notice things, patterns in people, motives behind words, energy behind smiles. You don't just hear what someone says, you feel what they mean. And that's not paranoia. That's discernment. Hebrews 5:14 says, "But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil." The chosen develop what the Bible calls spiritual discernment, a kind of X-ray vision of the soul. You begin to see past the charm, the masks, the pretenses. And this makes people uncomfortable, because your gaze exposes what they're trying to hide. Some will resent you for it. Others will fear you. But there will be a few who are drawn to you not because of what you say, but because of what you see. Because you see them. Really see them. And in a world full of illusion, that's a rare gift, but that vision comes at a cost. You've had to look within before you could see without. You've had to confront your own shadows, heal your own wounds, strip away your own masks. And in doing so, you are given a deeper sight, one that can now navigate deception and walk in truth, the mastery of stillness, the weapon of focus. The world is noisy, chaotic, distracted. But the chosen, they learn to sit in silence. They learn to find clarity where others find confusion. While others need constant stimulation, you've learned to focus, to observe, to reflect. And that gives you an edge. Philippians 4:8 urges us to think on things that are noble, pure, lovely, and admirable. That's the practice of the awakened mind. A mind anchored in truth doesn't get swept away by the storms of life, and here's what sets you apart. You don't just think clearly. You act decisively. You move with intention. You make choices rooted in purpose. And when others second guess, hesitate, or crumble under pressure, you remain steady because you have trained your mind to slice through distraction. And that kind of clarity is rare. It's intimidating. It's powerful. And it's the reason why the enemy works overtime to confuse and distract those who are chosen, but not you. You are focused. And focus is a superpower in a world addicted to chaos. You are being prepared, not punished of everything you've been through, the loneliness, the battles, the spiritual tension. It wasn't meant to destroy you. It was preparing you. It was setting you apart. It was awakening the dormant gifts that were always inside you. Jeremiah 1:5 reminds us, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." You have always been marked. You have always been different. And now the evidence is rising within you. The powers are waking up. The calling is getting louder. And the solitude that once felt like punishment, it's revealing itself as the birthplace of your destiny. So lean in. Trust the process. Embrace the silence. Because what God is building in you is bigger than anything you've lost. And what He's awakening in you is the beginning of a transformation that cannot be stopped. And now that your eyes have been opened, your heart aligned, and your mind renewed, get ready. Because part 2 will take you even deeper into this sacred journey. There is a divine reason why the most powerful gifts are born in the most silent places. God often places His chosen in seasons of obscurity, not because they are forgotten, but because they are being fortified. The world glorifies being seen, but God glorifies being rooted. And in solitude, He plants you deep so you can stand tall when the storms come. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." The season of hiddenness is not punishment. It is strategy. It is the furnace where your gifts are purified, your character is shaped, and your anointing is sealed. Many people crave power without process. But the chosen understand that to carry divine weight, one must first be broken, tested, and refined in the silence where no applause is heard and no spotlight shines. Because when you come out of the shadows, you must carry something that cannot be shaken. This is why solitude is the chosen one's sacred classroom. And in that hidden place, certain spiritual powers begin to activate that separate you from the rest. Have you ever just known something before it happened? Felt an inner knowing that turned out to be accurate? This is not luck or coincidence. It is spiritual intuition. John 16:13 says, "But when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will guide you into all the truth. He will not speak on His own. He will speak only what He hears, and He will tell you what is yet to come. When you are alone, away from the noise of the world, the voice of the Spirit becomes louder. The chosen begin to operate in a divine sensitivity where truth resonates before it's spoken. This is more than instinct. It's more than intellect. It's divine insight. You begin to recognize patterns. You see the spiritual root of physical situations. You discern people's motives. And most importantly, you know when to speak and when to be silent. This power protects you. It guides your decisions. It keeps you aligned with God's purpose. And while others are swayed by appearances, you are grounded by divine truth. In isolation, you learn how to stand alone. And in that standing, you develop a strength that is unbreakable. The kind of strength that does not need external encouragement. The kind of strength that finds its fire in the Spirit of God alone. Isaiah 42:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Solitude forces you to confront your weaknesses. It strips away the crutches, the excuses, the distractions. And in that vulnerable place, God becomes your only source of strength. That's why, when the chosen walk through storms, they do not crumble. Their foundation was not built on comfort. It was built in consecration. This kind of strength terrifies the enemy, because you are no longer dependent on affirmation, on attention, or on company. You have learned to draw strength from the well of divine presence. And that makes you immovable. One of the hardest but most necessary aspects of being chosen is experiencing divine isolation. It feels like abandonment, but it is actually divine separation. God removes people, closes doors, and blocks access. Not to harm you, but to prepare you for what's coming. 2 Corinthians 6:17 says, "Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Not everyone can go where you're going. Not everyone is designed to walk with you into the next dimension of your calling. And so, God isolates you to elevate you. He strips away the unnecessary, so you can focus on the essential. In solitude, your circle gets smaller, but your clarity gets stronger. Your dependence on people decreases, but your intimacy with God increases. And that shift is everything, because when you are no longer distracted by noise, you can hear divine instruction. You begin to walk with purpose, speak with authority, and move with precision. This is the difference between the chosen and the crowd. In the quiet, your eyes begin to open to the reality of spiritual warfare. You realize that not all battles are natural. Some attacks are spiritual. Some anxiety is not yours. Some fatigue is not physical. Some heaviness is not circumstantial. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." The chosen are trained in solitude to detect unseen warfare. You learn to recognize when a spiritual attack is near. You become aware of the schemes of the enemy before they unfold. And more importantly, you are taught to fight, not with fear, but with faith. Not with noise, but with prayer. Not with panic, but with praise. Solitude teaches you spiritual strategy. And the chosen are never defenseless, because your quiet seasons were never passive. They were military training for the battles ahead. Finally, solitude births your true identity. When the noise of the world fades, when the opinions of others are stripped away, When the masks are removed, what remains is who you really are. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." In isolation, you stop performing and start becoming. You stop trying to be accepted and start learning to be aligned. You discover that your worth was never in what you did or who approved. It was always in who you were created to be. This identity is not fragile. It does not shift with mood or season. It is rooted in eternity. And once you find it, you are unshakable. God has always called his greatest warriors in the wilderness. David was anointed in a field, not a palace. Elijah met God in a cave, not a crowd. Jesus overcame the enemy in a desert, not in a temple.so. If you find yourself alone, misunderstood, separated, don't despair. Don't question your worth. Don't assume something is wrong. Instead, recognize what is being built within you. This solitude is your sanctuary. It is the proving ground of the chosen. It is the holy ground where divine power awakens, because those who walk with God in the silence will soon speak with power in the light. By now, something deep within you has shifted. You are no longer who you were when this journey began. You've been broken down, emptied, rebuilt, and refined. You've walked through loneliness only to discover that you were never truly alone. You've listened in silence and heard God more clearly than ever before. And now a sacred fire begins to stir not just within, but around you, because when the chosen emerge from solitude, they do not return the same. They walk with quiet confidence. They speak with weight. They move with purpose. Their presence alone disrupts the atmosphere. And that is not arrogance, it is alignment with divine power. Matthew 5:14-15 says, "You are the light of the world." A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. There comes a point when your light cannot stay hidden. The gifts cultivated in silence must now be revealed. The authority that was forged in the fire must now be walked in publicly. The chosen carry a supernatural energy that cannot be denied. Let's look deeper into how that spiritual awakening begins to shape your life, your relationships, your influence, and even your environment. Words are no longer just words. When you speak, something happens. People stop to listen. Hearts are stirred. Eyes begin to open. Not because you are trying to impress, but because your voice is now an instrument of truth. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, the tongue has the power of life and death. You have learned to speak life. Your words carry weight because they are forged in wisdom, truth, and discernment. You don't talk just to be heard. You speak when led. You listen more than most. And when you release a word, it cuts through confusion and brings clarity. This is not charisma. It is spiritual depth. The chosen develop a prophetic edge not always in grand visions, but in the way they perceive truth and deliver it with boldness. And love, even your silence becomes a statement. Because your discernment has taught you when to speak and when to simply let the presence of God in you do the talking. Have you noticed that some rooms feel different when you walk in? That people either draw close to you or pull away with discomfort. This is because your energy has changed. Your spirit is carrying a frequency that convicts, comforts, or challenges depending on the posture of the person encountering you. Acts 5:15 speaks of how people brought the sick to the streets, hoping that even Peter's shadow might fall on them and bring healing. Why? Because Peter walked in such a tangible presence of God that even his shadow carried power. You, too, begin to affect the unseen. People can sense when you're near not because of volume, but because of vibration. Your spirit now carries authority. And even without words, It demands recognition in the spiritual realm. The anxious feel calm in your presence. The deceivers feel exposed. The broken feel seen. The prideful feel convicted, because you walk not in your own strength, but in the overflow of divine presence. While others chase success, you are being positioned for impact. Doors begin to open not for fame or fortune, but for kingdom purpose. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord." You begin to notice patterns. You're in the right place at the right time. Conversations happen that you couldn't have orchestrated. People come into your life who are looking for exactly what you carry, and it's not coincidence. It's divine assignment. The chosen are led, not driven. You're no longer chasing opportunities, you're walking into divine appointments. These moments are not about what you can gain, but what you are called to release. Wisdom, healing, strategy, revelation. Where others see platforms, you see purpose. And that mindset makes you a vessel God can trust with greater and greater influence. There are moments you should have failed, moments where disaster was near, conversations that could have ruined you, situations that should have broken you. But somehow you are preserved. Psalm 91:11 says, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." You now live with a heightened awareness that your life is protected. You feel it in your spirit. You've been shielded from people who meant you harm. You've been redirected from paths that would have destroyed your destiny. You've been delayed only to be delivered into something far better. The chosen carry a mark. The enemy knows it. Heaven knows it. You may have scars from the battle, but you are still standing because God has assigned angels to your journey. This isn't superstition. It's spiritual law. When you walk in your divine identity, no weapon formed against you can prosper. One of the most beautiful signs that your awakening is complete is that your focus begins to shift. It's no longer just about you. It's about the people you are sent to impact. You begin to see gifts in others. You call out greatness. You speak identity into those who are still asleep. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Your awakening is a signal to others. It is a trumpet sound to the lost, the broken, the hidden ones. They see something in you and begin to ask questions. They sense something familiar and begin to hunger for what you carry, and when that happens, you don't point to yourself. You point them back to God, because you now understand that your awakening was never just for you. It was so you could light the way for others. You've become a bridge, a lighthouse, a messenger, and there's no turning back. You are becoming the answer to someone's prayer. Everything you've endured, every lonely night, every trial, every lesson, it has prepared you to become an answer, to carry a word in season, to bring healing to the hurting, to release wisdom in the chaos, to shine in the darkness. You are not just surviving, you are shifting atmospheres, releasing revelation, and walking in purpose. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." You are never meant to stay hidden. You were trained in the shadows so you could rise in the light. The transformation within is now becoming a transformation around you. You've passed through the solitude. You've endured the separation. You've awakened the gifts within and stepped boldly into your divine assignment. But now comes the most sacred part of your journey, the sustaining of your anointing. Because the enemy doesn't fear your beginning. He fears your consistency. And this final phase of your transformation is where your walk becomes your warfare and your life becomes your legacy. You must protect the fire within you. You must nurture the power God placed inside you, not just on the mountaintop. but in the valley, in the routine, in the everyday moments where most people let their light dim because you are no longer living a normal life. You are now marked by heaven. Your words carry weight. Your steps are strategic. Your presence carries the power of the one who sent you. With great power comes great temptation to be seen, to be praised, to be elevated by man. But the chosen know that true power is quiet, secure, and rooted in God. James 4:10 says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up." You don't need to broadcast your transformation. The fruit of your life will speak louder than your words. The favor you carry will be evident. And those who try to compete or compare will be left confused by how you continue to rise without striving. You are not chasing platforms, you are walking in purpose. Your strength comes not from the applause of people, but from your time in the secret place with God. And that humility becomes your greatest shield. Because pride invites attack, but humility invites divine protection. The fire you carry must be fed. Just as a flame needs oxygen, your spirit needs spiritual fuel. That's why the chosen live by daily disciplines that keep them aligned. Prayer becomes your source of direction. The word becomes your compass. Stillness becomes your strategy. Worship becomes your warfare. Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." This is how the chosen stay sharp in a dull world. You don't wait for crisis to pray. You don't wait for problems to listen. You are consistently plugged into the source, and that is what sets you apart. While others rise and fall based on emotion or circumstance, you remain steady. Because your strength doesn't come from within, it comes from above. In the beginning, your solitude was forced. People walked away. Doors closed. Silence surrounded you. But now you choose solitude. You seek out stillness because you know it's where clarity is found. Luke 5:16 says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." You're no longer addicted to noise. You don't need to be everywhere, say everything, or be seen by everyone. You are intentional with your presence. You value your peace. And because of that, you are more effective with less effort. You speak less, but your words hit harder. You show up less, but your impact lasts longer. You move slower, but your steps are anointed. This is the beauty of chosen solitude. You've learned that power doesn't require attention. It requires presence. And your presence has become saturated with the Spirit of God. One of the most powerful signs of maturity is the ability to respond instead of react. The enemy may try to provoke you, but now you understand that not every battle requires your sword. Some only require your silence. Others require your strategy. Proverbs 17:27 says, "The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered." You no longer let emotions lead. You are spirit-led. You pray before speaking. You pause before moving. You wait for the prompting of God before acting. And because of that, you waste less energy and gain greater victories. The chosen don't move because they're triggered. They move because they're called. That's the difference between spiritual children and spiritual warriors. And you, beloved, are becoming a warrior because your discernment has matured. You now sense warfare before it manifests. You feel tension in the spirit before conflict appears. You detect deception before betrayal strikes. And that is not paranoia. It is preparation. Ephesians 6:11 says, "Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." The chosen stay armored daily. You understand that peace is not the absence of war, it is the presence of strategy. You do not fear attacks, you expect them, and you are ready.